I'm Councilor Green. I'm joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Driscoll, Councilor Allen, Councilor Rudd, Council President Hudson. So at this point, I guess, Mary, I'll turn it over to you.
What page are we on, Counselor?
Page 142.
Got it.
What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with activity indicators or go to staffing?
Yeah, you can just, a high level, go through the indicators.
Okay. Well, the indicators are pretty much the same as last year. The hours are higher than they were last year because we added some hours in, hoping to fill some vacancies that we have. But now we've removed a few of the vacancies to help our budget situation. So,
Mary, when you say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mary, but when you say vacancies were removed, you mean positions in the budget were removed that weren't funded?
yes, I had, in my original budget submission, I had vacancies to be funded, and I have since unfunded some of those vacancies to help the budget
What
situation.
titles were they, anyways?
I'll go through each one of those.
Okay.
Because it is, I'm going to go line by line on that, if that's okay.
Sure.
So that I guess is just an explanation as to why the total hours are higher in 2021 than they are in 1920. But in reality, because we're not going to fund all the vacancies that I originally proposed, the hours are pretty much going to be the same. Does anybody have any questions on the activity indicators?
Just one, Mayor. With the JSCB, I know you do a significant amount of work with that. Because I remember from my time on this, do we get any school district compensation for your time?
Fortunately, I have a few people working on JSCB. It's myself, Kelly Haggerty, and a facilities engineer, Matt Kelly, and we don't get, there is no reimbursement available for working on that project. We track it, but there's no, the bonds don't allow for staff reimbursement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the activity indicators right now? All right, I'm going to move then to page 144, which is our personnel services details. And I can go line by line to say what's funded and not funded, if that's all right. So the first line is myself. Luckily, I'm funded. Deputy city engineer is not funded this fiscal year coming up, and it's currently vacant. Division engineer of design and construction is funded. That's John Kiblehan. Division engineer of mapping is funded. That's Mark Romano. Division engineer of buildings is funded. That's Kelly Haggerty. We have 7 facilities engineers. 2 of them are in buildings, and 2 are currently in design and construction. So I'm not funding, so that leaves 3 vacancies right now. I'm not funding 2 of those, and I am funding 1 vacant position for design and construction. Then I have fiscal officer. That is currently not funded. Technically, that Maria moved to finance. So I probably could remove her from the budget totally. And I have 1 Civil 2 that's currently working. GIS specialist is vacant, and I've funded it for half a year. We have some additional stormwater requirements that are going to be coming up that require a lot more mapping of our sewer system. Then I've got civil engineer 1. 5 of them, we currently have 4, and the 5th one will be unfunded. Then I have construction inspector 2. We just hired a person who started in that position. We have 1 engineering tech 2. The clerk of the works 1 is not going to be funded. Engineering tech 1 we currently have, and admin assistant we currently have. And then we have a part-time facilities engineer, that's Dominic Vaca, who's worked with us for years, is retired, and is back part-time. So currently I have 17 positions that are filled, and in my current budget I have 2.5 positions that are vacant and will be funded, and 6.5 positions that are unfunded, which, if you add all that up, it does add up to 26. There's a quiz on this afterwards.
Any questions from counselors on this? Okay. All right, Mary, do you want to take us down to 145?
Counselor Green, this is Sharon. Can I just add one point about Mary's department? This is one of the departments. You've heard our stories about our mechanics. Mary's department is the other department that we have struggled to identify qualified positions through last year, the year before. So when we talk about her vacancies and them being funded because of the status of this building, that's an ongoing kind of conversation, and we have to start thinking about some other ways to be able to build her capacity around the expertise that she needs for city engineers. Just wanted to add that.
So, Deputy Mayor, we would talk about waivers maybe for residency and the situation like this.
So, I didn't want to say the W word, but there's
well, let's
categories.
bring it up. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah, there's categories of positions. It is documented that they have been sitting vacant, and it's not because of lack of trying. It's just lack of the ability to identify individuals. I myself have sent individuals to Mary who are looking to relocate to Syracuse possibly, and the timing didn't work out or just wasn't. So it's just something that moving forward as we look at, obviously, this budget is going to be tough, but going into the next budget, that possibility, I don't know if the issue with mechanics is getting any better or not, but I lump that group in with engineering and the problem. So yes, Counselor, definitely. That's a conversation of the potential and not unending waivers, but possibly a window of that opportunity, particularly in this department.
Okay.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of people that have gone, I think, both for better income and residency. We've lost them for both reasons.
So which one is it, Mary? What do you think is the deciding factor? Money or residency?
I really think it's a combination. Some people, I had one person leave for residency this past year. And another person left recently for better opportunity.
Okay.
So I guess you could say one was for money and one was for residency.
Okay.
And then top that off with just the inability to fill because of both of those reasons. So
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's correct.
Okay. You want to take us through 145?
Sure. So my budget represents a 13.3% budget cut overall. Most of my cuts are in salaries. Went from 1.377 million to 1.2 million. That's basically for unfunding the vacancies. We have Dominic is under the temporary services. He's the part-time facilities engineer. The 191 is our reimbursement for TIP projects. We have in TIP projects this year, we have 5 in construction. Well, 4 TIP projects in construction, and then the Butternut Street Big Ones project will be in construction, and that's a grant as well. So that's where we get all that TIP funding. And then we also have 8 TIP projects in design. So that's where that funding reimbursement comes from. The contractual services are, pretty much the same. One thing that did change was line 405, operating supplies and expenses. That dropped because our AutoCAD license, that expense moved to IT.
I have a question, Mary. So the professional services, I know you use for contractors. Just historically, how does that work, or what kind of contractors do you use?
That professional services is for our outside consultants. So we use this money when we need outside consultants. I've used it for their expertise on the 5G when we put together that contract and our standards. This past year, or this current year, we've used it. It's basically for something when we need outside services for something that we don't currently have a project on. Like I used it for a grant application. We used it for doing some test certification at the Fire Training Center required by DEC. We were potentially going to use it for the evaluation of the Ran Ave sewer, which Councilor Hogan is familiar with.
Yes.
We're not progressing that right this moment, Councilor, because of we don't want to send the consultants into the homes at this point.
Okay.
So it's kind of for unforeseen. We have buildings that we have structural concerns on. We'll bring in an outside consultant to do assessments on the buildings. So that's that type of thing that we use it for.
Okay. Any other questions from councilors?
Yes, I do. And I finally learned how to raise my hand and nobody recognized me. So now, okay. So, so Mary, question for you. When you said the reimbursement from other funds, so all of those reimbursements are from the TIP projects? There's no one else? Because I'm trying to get a breakdown from all of the reimbursable funds and where they're coming from.
This current year, I believe it was all TIP funds. We do have one LWRP grant, and I don't know the answer of whether that got, I'm not sure if that went in that reimbursement went in a separate grant account or if it got counted here. Is Mary Vossler on the call? Maria Vigigliotti, who tracks all this, has a family medical emergency, so she's not able to be here today, but I can check with her on that. But okay. Basically, it's mainly TIP projects, and when we do the dig once, I'll also have to find out if that would count under this reimbursement line or not.
Okay, because I just want to try to track where the money's coming from. Thank you.
Counselor, I got a few questions.
Go for it.
Maybe this question's to the deputy mayor, but so with all the stuff that we depend on Mary's department to do, I mean, was this budget put together pre-COVID or in recognition of COVID? In other words, because it's almost like a $200,000 cut in her budget. So I just was wondering about the reasoning here on this.
This budget, in the final stretches of it, was absolutely taking into account our financial forecast, particularly with what we're projecting for sales tax reimbursement. So typically what we would do is take a look at vacant positions. And in normal circumstances, we may have given Mary some flexibility on this, but because of what we're projecting, in general, we went across and looked at vacancies and started to remove vacancies. I understand Counselor Hogan and the rest of the counselors, we understand Mary's in a very unique position in that her department is extremely vital for what we're looking to do here in the city. There's not one infrastructure project, there's not one building project that her office does not touch, and she's not an integral part of it. And I think all of you will agree she's the consummate professional, and her staff is amazing. And it goes back to what I talked about before, just really, and I know that the chief operating officer is on it, Corey's on this as well, is that looking comprehensively of how we can equip this office for everything that they do. But to directly answer your question, it was, as we looked at positions, definitely engaged with what our financial forecast is going to be.
But I just want to like, because we had the police department budget the other day, and they show 461 positions that are fully funded, but they're only going to have about 404 police officers. So they got like 57 fully funded empty positions, but Mary's being cut like by 8 positions and $200,000. I guess I don't understand where the reasoning comes from on this. I'm afraid to talk off the top of my head about the police budget because it's really so complicated, but I can't remember where we are. Maybe I'm gonna get back to you. It may be also projecting some retirements. I'm not sure. So I get your point, but I'll get back to you on the details of those vacancies. I mean, many of the things that come up, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Deputy Mayor, many of the things that come up in neighborhood meetings involve some sort of participation by Mary's office. And absolutely. I just think, just the structural, I can think of all the different things that her department does to improve the life of the people of the city of Syracuse, quality of life. And I just, this is quite a cut. And so if you get back to me with that information, I'd be interested.
I will absolutely.
And if I can piggyback on Councilor Hogan, I agree, because I've been on the council now almost 8 years, and for 8 years, engineering has always struggled to maintain a healthy work staff. A lot of it because of what we pay, and some of it is the residency. So I want to applaud Mary for continuing to move forward, because she has always been understaffed, because that's one of those positions. I don't like waivers, don't like them. But that's one of the departments that we've always had to waiver to get the people that we need to continue to do the work. So, yeah.
I agree with everything everyone said. I embarrassingly right now don't have an answer for you, except the reality of what we're talking about as far as this budget is concerned.
Well, I think as the budget, as we'll continue to look for people once, we're more able to actively look for people in the open world and not in our homes, and see, how successful we are at filling these 2.5 vacancies. And if there may be, a couple months ago, engineers were in high demand. All consultants were competing for engineers, but now, obviously the economy's changed, so engineers might be more available than they were a few months ago. So we might be able to find some people.
Good point, Mary. Good point.
So I guess I don't feel uncomfortable at this point with the unfunded positions, excuse me, because I haven't had success in finding a lot of people, but perhaps the climate has changed. So so we'll see what we can do with the 2.5 positions, and if we find a bunch of engineers, you know, I would approach the administration and see if there's anything we can do.
But if you had the money, you could make the effort, and if you couldn't fill those positions, then you could always hand it back to the general fund. So, but without the money, you're not going to be able to fill the positions. So.
True, unless we did some type of adjustment,
Right.
depending upon where we are mid-year, because we're hoping the economy turns around.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. I think our next one is DPW, but that's not till 11, so it'll be on the same channel, but we have a little bit.
Recess.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, counselors. Be well.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
See you guys in a little.
Get the budget hearing started for DPW. Councilor Green, we have Council President Hudson, Councilor Hogan, Councilor Allen, Councilor Rudd, Councilor Peniagua, Councilor Majuk, and I think that's it. So Commissioner Robinson, are you gonna run the show here for this?
What page are we on, Michael?
146.
146.
I guess before we get into it, it'd probably be helpful if you can just, given COVID, that impact on our operations right now, if you can just kind of walk us through what services right now we're not able to do, or how that's impacting our current operational.
I got that on my computer. How do you speak? Gotta put that on mute. I can put it on mute. All right. So down here at DPW, during the pandemic, we had to reduce our services, obviously. Essential services, as Governor said, stated that we needed to follow by, which is sanitation and sewers. All other services has been on a minimal staffing, and we had to cut back some of our services. So sanitation is operating as regular. Sewers is doing their due diligence with some of the sewer backups and trying to clear debris from some of the catch basins if need be. But brush pickups have taken a toll in this pandemic, and we had to make a tough decision to cut that out of our operations for now. I mean, obviously we can't go on forever with this, and we have to internally meet and figure out what we can do to continue that service. But for now, the drop-off pad is available to all residents. They're more than willing to, happy to open it up on Saturdays if they need. If we have to open up a little longer, we will. Currently, it's open on Saturdays, so I think the hours are 7 to 3, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturdays, and regular hours during the day. So we do have a person there attending that pad. But we are continuing to fix lights and stop signs and stuff like that, but just on a much smaller scale.
Commissioner, could I interject a question?
Yeah.
So regarding the brush, I'm just curious, and sorry, I got here a minute late. I forgot my charger and my computer died. What changes in capacity are you seeing right now with staff regarding this thing? I don't know if you already covered that, but with COVID going on, I've heard that, you guys are, facing additional obstacles with getting staff in, people calling out sick. If people get even slightly sick, they don't want to take the risk and come in, et cetera, et cetera. It's all very understandable. I guess where I'm going with this is someone raised the point to me that if the brush stays out, like we're cutting non-essentials, right? Like that's the
Yes.
the thought process with all of our protocol and how we're moving forward with city operations. And this is, in a short term, is a non-essential. But in a long term, the kind of concern being that if this brush does get set out, people don't follow the city's protocol, they put out their brush or they're not aware. It's difficult for us to reach every single person individually. People might put their brush out not knowing that it's not getting picked up. The concern is that it may become a health and safety concern as we go along. If, animals start nesting in it, it gets, if strong rains come and it starts blocking the sewers and we end up with those kind of problems. So I definitely want to, follow your guys' protocol for what you think is the best move. I'm just curious your thoughts on that moving forward. First of all, my first question is then, what are the capacity issues you're having regarding staffing? How many people are you losing? At what level are you guys at 80%? Are you guys at 70%? I'm just curious to that respect. And also what your thoughts are for that long term as far as, the brush. I'm a total doomsday person with this whole COVID thing. The military is planning into 2021 how to change their operations long term. So I'm not pushing back on the short term need to cut the brush pickup, but long term it might be something we have to look at. So I just wanted to throw those thoughts out there and see what your thoughts are regarding staffing and regarding long term plans.
So the dilemma for us is just keeping our staff safe. Obviously, with the social distancing and our crews are, we got 8 to 10 guys on a crew, and trying to get those guys to actual site safely. That's our biggest concern. So in the short term, we figured by suspending the service for now to figure out how we can get those guys safely to pick up brush was best for us. We figured that we wanted to put our employees first, obviously, and then figure out a way how we can do it safely. We know that this is not a long-term fix. Obviously, this is going to cause more problems if the brush stays out. We know we can't reach everybody, like you said, but our internal talks are going to have to start divvying up, and we can figure out what we can do to get everybody safe to a job site. So we got to make sure that we have those talks soon, so this doesn't get out of hand.
And Commissioner, just to follow up on Councilor Driscoll's question, so how many staff members right now are we telling not to come to work? Not saying because they're sick, just saying that the service they provide is not essential, so therefore they should.
Right now, we just, like I said, we're operating on all departments are working. We're just operating on a minimal scale. So we have a rotation as far as street repair or street cleaning or sewers. Also, we have a rotation on DOT transportation. We have on-call basis for our grounds crew, our skilled trades. So everybody's getting a chance to work. It's just a minimal staffing at all times. So we're trying to keep the volume of employees in our department low in our building. So we might have 20 people in one department work one day. The next day they're on call at home if we need them, and the next day another 20 people come in. So it's like a ABC type shift where we're trying to rotate everybody in to make sure that we keep everything safe.
Okay, let's just so we don't get too far off track, let's just let you go through your 2020.
Let me see if Joe, did I answer some of your questions, Councilor Driscoll?
Yeah, I concur with Councilor Green, though. I'll follow up with you on a separate thread at a time. I think you did cover just the one point of clarity, Councilor Green. When you said that keeping our staff safety is priority one, why do you feel brush pickup? Is it just because we're trying to address the capacity issues, or is brush pickup specifically need a number of people that requires people to gather? It's the second thing. Okay.
That's it.
That's the other question I had. I'm good.
It's just totally different from Sani. Sani has guys on the back of a truck that are maybe 8 feet apart.
Right. So. Brush requires teamwork groups. I got it. Okay, we'll talk about it more later. I didn't want to
Councilor Green.
Full discussion. Sorry, Councilor Green. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jeremy, you want to start at 146, and then we can just work through each section of the budget.
Okay, so the main office is I don't know how you want to do this, but the main office, we had to, personnel-wise, we had to, you can see it went from 16 to 14 on 148. I'm sorry, I skipped 146, but I think we're going to get into 46 and 47 with the parking garages next. So I really want to dig into staffing on the main office. Our accountant 1 and account clerk 2, we had to unfund because they moved to a different department. We felt that those, not everybody, but we felt that those tasks could be morphed into other employees. They can take on a bigger role. So we felt that we didn't need to fund those positions. So it was, I think not everybody agreed, but we kind of came to a conclusion that we didn't need to fund those positions. Pretty much the main office budget pretty much stayed the same. As you can see on 149, I believe, you have some things that increase, but mostly it all stayed the same.
Commissioner.
Yes.
Michael, can I ask a question? On 149, I've been asking this of all of the departments. When it talks about the reimbursement, can you kind of break down? I don't need you to do it now, but can you break down where the reimbursements are coming from for me?
I will hand that over to my fiscal officer, Lori Ayako, and she can help me with this clarification. Lori, can you speak about that? Lori? I guess I'll get you an answer later.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear? I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Normally, every quarter, we have reimbursements from City Line, the amount of calls they have. And we do chargebacks according to the calls for recon, sewers, sweeping and flushing, for a percentage of that goes to those departments and reimburses City Line. We're not doing that anymore. All it is shuffling money back and forth. It's very little money every quarter. So I spoke with budget last year and we decided that it's just not worth doing it. So we stopped it.
So it's all internal, so there's no grants
Yes.
involved. It's all internal. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that you won't see going forward.
Thank you.
All
Okay.
right.
Any other
questions
questions
main
on
office?
the main office section, and then we'll go to information services last.
Good?
Yep.
All right. So info services, the new highlight, which is long overdue, we added a legal set-out investigator. I think Councilor Rudd was chomping at the bit on the last committee meeting talking about illegal set-outs, and we acknowledge the fact that we need someone to champion this and make sure that we can continue to clean our city effectively. So we appointed we didn't appoint someone yet, but we actually funded that position, and hopefully in July we can find someone to take control of this illegal set-out.
Commissioner, I know in the past when we've had these come up, there's legislatively challenges, right, where you've got to cite them and there's a time period and they've got to come back. Can you walk us through that process and how that'll be impacted by having this other person?
So what our vision is to have this guy or woman go out preemptively and cite. We won't. Monday is the north side, this pickup. Then maybe on Tuesday he'll go back Tuesday to actual see what's out, because normally how we get these illegal set-outs is someone will have their trash day on a Monday, and Tuesday they'll put some more trash out there and say we forgot it, or if or just leave it out there for an entire week. So we're going to try to have that investigator go follow actually the trash route. So they'll cite it on a Tuesday, On Wednesday, our guys would come back to see if it's been taken care of, and if it hasn't, we give them 24 hours to pull back the things from the curb, and if it hasn't, we'll pick it up and then we'll go after them for a fine.
Would it be possible? It sounds like a good addition. Would it be possible to somehow when people on the truck reject trash to have like somebody note like 201 Glenwood and then have that report go to this new person?
When you say reject trash, I'm confused, Counselor.
Well, it seems like there's a variety of illegal trash set outs. Like it might be that you set your normal acceptable trash out at the wrong time, but it might be that you set all kinds of crap out like
right.
TVs, tires,
Right.
and it just seems like there's definitely times that, or like there's a bag full of construction debris or something and they leave it. Like I feel like when they leave something, there should be a method of communicating to the person that there was something unacceptable, because otherwise
right.
it just sits there for a long period of time.
So that's already in place now. So when the guys come to a resident's house and see that there's an illegal set out, whether it's a TV in the trash or something out that shouldn't be out, they'll cite it, and it's going to streamline to the actual complaint investigator. So.
What do they actually do? Because in my experience, it seems like they grab it. They're like, "Oh, this is not what we're supposed to take," and they just leave it and they keep going.
What they do is supposed to happen? So the protocol is the laborers are called to their crew leaders. Their crew leader will come back to whatever said resident, and then they'll cite it. The actual garbage labor workers don't cite. They just move on. They call their crew leaders and say, "Hey, we have at 321 Brookwood. There's something," and they'll come back and actually write a ticket.
It's like the guy's throwing, yell to the driver, and the driver radios to the crew leader.
Yes. You've been on the back of a truck.
I suspect that could happen more often, but
yeah, you're right.
Good that's there.
You're right.
So, Commissioner, so when that happens, then somebody will come back in, they'll pick it up, and then fine the illegal set out. And
we give them 24. We got to give them 24 hours, Counselor Hogan, to correct the behavior, and after that, if they haven't, then we will pick it up and fine them.
And fine them, and that will include the cost of the manpower too, or not?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner, the 24 hours obviously is legislative. And I guess to the extent, do we know, is that standard around the country? Is that the best practice? Is that something we should be looking at changing legislatively to empower your guys more?
That's a good point. We probably should look at that and see if we can. I don't know around the world where, if that's normal. I mean, I'm obviously AmFORDOT could delve into that. She said that we could probably take a look and talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I just know, speaking for myself and the other counselors, this is one of the most common calls we get. We spend too much time dealing with it. So to the extent you can make it easier for your guys, I think the council
would be awesome if we could just, cite and ticket and fine right away. If we come up across something and instead of waiting 24 hours for it to blow around or get it.
Particularly if it's a repeat offender, right? If it's someone
exactly.
This week to give them 24 hours again, that's
You're right. I think we should look at it. You're right.
Okay. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So let's keep going on this subject.
Wait. Councilor Green, can I ask one question, and it's not on that one? I want to go back to page 150.
150.
Real quick.
Yep.
And I see that it says litter and codes quick response, city blocks clean. You went from 4,000 to 45,000 city blocks clean?
Good staffing. Can I give myself a pat on the back? I'm only. I mean, those guys have been out there, been litter picking, and I think that was the mayor's initiative, is trying to make sure that we get out there and pick litter. So.
Hey, 45,000. I applaud you.
I mean, Commissioner, it's clearly a typo, right?
Excuse me?
Definitely a typo, right?
Yeah, it is, but we don't have to talk about that, though. I'm trying to who's got the numbers, and you're ruining it for me. I'm trying to get on President Hudson's good side.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a typo.
Oh.
I'm just trying to butter you up.
Oh, that's why you kind of moved on past it, but okay.
I did. I can get you the actual number. It's probably online at 4,500.
Thanks, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, before you move on that same page, this is Rita, Councilor Paniagua. And in the telephone calls received and services requested, do you keep track how many of those actually get resolved from the call and the request? Do you keep track of these things?
Yeah, we keep track of it in IPS, which is our system that we go by with Cityline. So yeah, we keep track.
Okay, so do like a 50% get resolved, 100%? Do you have an idea?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, Councilor Paniagua, but I can get back to you on that one. I mean, I would say at least over 50% get resolved, but that's just shooting a dart in the dark, so I can get back to you on that.
I would love that. Thank you very much.
Yep. Good.
Anything else on this page, 151? The 152 is the same. It's the same department, but salaries. Anything noteworthy on here?
I gotta add that I know I don't know if anyone's seen this, but you see the 2,200 for the car allowance. I don't know if that stuck out to me as well, but that's for our legal set-out person to drive around and actually cite. So just letting everyone know that.
Yep, because I was headed there.
I don't get a car allowance.
Any questions on page 152? Okay, Commissioner, next page, 153, building services.
Yeah, so building services is, we pretty much stand status quo with that. You know, you see the sites maintained is 184. I know Kevin Henry could tell you that, you know, it's, what can go wrong did go wrong this year. I mean, we had from leaks in the city hall, from all types of crap. I mean, Kevin, if you want to, like some of the things that Skilled Trades been doing, Kevin Henry.
I'm sorry, before Kevin jumps on, can we someone is on there, they're not muted. Can we mute ourselves, please? Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, I think you just summed it up by saying everything that can go wrong did go wrong, and it's continuing to do that. And, I mean, we are pretty much took on a lot more than we should have, but I'm going to continue to try to do as much as we can with what we have here as far as personnel. I'm not sure, you know, what questions we'd like to have answered, but.
No, I think that sums it up. I just wanted to make sure that they knew that, you know, your guys have been doing a great job. They bit off a lot this year, and some of the things weren't department specific, but you took it on and championed that, and we commend you for that. Obviously, you also took on the actual, you know, safety of us in our building at this time too, as well as cleaning the buildings and stuff like that. So we definitely commend you on that and your leadership. So moving on to that, any questions on that page? Okay. So I'm going to,
Next is street repair, 156.
yeah, I was going to skip down the street repair to 156. So street repair, I think you guys got the road recon list, and we can talk about that at the committee meeting, I think, unless you want to dig into that now. But street repair is just status quo as well. There's no really new exciting things, but the recon list, we tried to, this year in our budget, we tried to, and, you know, do more with less. Obviously, in this time of budget constraints, we try to do more with less. We wish we had more so we can do more with more, but at this time we had to, make some difficult decisions citywide.
So Commissioner, on that, the list that we have, I mean, so is that utilizing all of our staff? I mean, I guess if we wanted to do more, do we have the staff capability to do it, or is that kind of the peak of what we can do?
Well, this year we're trying to, I guess, say pilot or ask for help this year. Where we're going to try to ask for Rosselli or that's on and was it Barrett? Barrett. Okay, that's on county contract for help with some of our paving. That's something that we want to look forward to in the future so we can do more. Staffing is a big problem for us. Over the years, the staffing deteriorated, and we went from Kevin Hunter. I don't know if you're on this call, but I think we went from 70 individuals in street repair to now 30, and that kind of took a hit for us to have several milling crews and several paving crews, and we can mill different streets at the same time. We can't do that no longer. We have to stick to one street here, which takes time, and weather dependent, we can't get to them all. So we want to look for ways to help us pave more. I wish we could have did more this year, but this is what we got.
So what percentage did we get through last year out of our goal?
What was it, Kevin? Was it 90%?
I would say 95%. We did
95% last year. Those guys did kick butt last year. We ran into some issues with a few streets that the county we couldn't coordinate with the county to get done, and that was I think Grand Ave. I'm drawing a blank on the other one, Kerry.
Yeah, we had Grand Ave. Grand Ave was we were going to try to finish that last year, but Green Infrastructure, they want to try to help us out, the county. And the only other one was Scott Home Terrace, and yep. National Grid was working. So, I mean, we would have done just about all the streets. Grand Ave was going to be definitely a holdover till this year. Other than that, we would have finished the whole list last year.
So the proposal for this year, what percentage of that are we anticipating doing in-house versus contracting out?
Oh man,
what was the question? I didn't hear.
How many streets are we going to do in-house, and how many we're going to do, let someone else do? The percentage.
Rosselli's coming in. They're doing Wolf Street. That was on the list from last year, and I'm going to give them Meadowbrook off of this year's list, and we're going to go from there.
So we probably say what, 90, 85?
We're going to do 90% of the regional list in-house.
So where does that show up here on the budget? Is there a certain line item that's just for the contracting out portion, or how does that?
Lori, that's not in our budget. That's for that tip. Lori?
That's the CIP.
CIP.
That's for the capital improvement, not in the operating.
Operating.
So, Commissioner, with the cutback in manpower over the years, is it a manpower issue, but is it also an equipment issue? Do you still have the equipment if you had the manpower?
I would say yeah. What do you say, Kev? I think if we had 70 guys like we did before, I think we can mill and pave at the same time.
It's definitely a manpower issue. Absolutely, 100%.
You went from 70 to 30 over the years.
When I started 20 years ago, we had, I want to say it was in the 70, 73, workers.
Yeah.
We're down to, with my compers, I would say I have 41 workers.
Wow.
And that might even be too high.
See, I leave the city for 5 years and look what happens.
All right. Any more questions on street repair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Commissioner, over time, what's our 5-year plan? Are we anticipating gradually having our in-house staff focus more on repair and then trying to outsource more of the new pavement, or what's our long-term plan today?
Well, I think that's the internal questions that we're talking about now. We're trying to see if these these guys can actually handle what we expect of them. I mean, we have a standard, and this is what we want to do. We want to see if they can handle it. So we're trying to give them a few streets here, and and take it from there, and then we can talk internally afterwards. So our goal is to beef up our staff. I mean, we want to have city workers do city streets. I mean, that's what we want to do. But obviously, we have a budget to stay within, and that's kind of hard. So we're looking at other options to try to supplement some of the paving, and that's what we're doing.
Does that conflict with the union contracts?
No.
Okay.
As long as, I mean, it
We're
would
not laying anybody off or anything, so.
it would only come in conflict if Rosselli's out there working and our guys aren't. That's the only issue, but that's not I don't think that would be an issue for us.
No, we have an open communication with the union presidents, and if that ever becomes a conflict, we can sit down and talk about it.
Thank you.
Yep.
As a comment, maybe we should look at a situation post-COVID that we think about rebuilding the Department of Public Works, much like the council and the mayor worked on rebuilding the police department at some point, because I always found that having city workers do work like this was much more beneficial in the city than having it being outsourced. So it's my comment.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Any more on street repair, Councilor Green?
We're good. 160, page 160 is motor equipment maintenance.
All right, so this is the big hot topic for me. Obviously, you guys helped us out with the passing of the 10 new snowplows. That was a big win for DPW and a big win for the city. But we got to maintain them. And that's the toughest thing for us down here is with 9 mechanics, in-house 9. I count them, 9 mechanics is tough to do with a fleet, not just with snowplows, but an entire DPW fleet. So that's a really tough job. So we wanted to put a little more money into MEM so we can ask for vendors' help. So that's what we did. We beefed up a little bit for help with that. We got 9 out of 13. If you are curious, we're supposed to have 13 heavy mechanics, and we only have 9. 13 isn't even enough. So I just wanted to comment on that one. But
Commissioner, that's 13 funded positions you have?
13 funded, Councilor Hogan. I wish it was 18 and 20. I think 20 would be beneficial. But we had some guys, we had 13, just had a few guys just, leave for better pastures, I guess. A couple of guys went to the state. One guy, I think, went to the county. I won't, comment on, if they're better or not, but I think working in the city and work is in our benefits, says a lot. So a lot of guys just don't want to, it's residency. A lot of guys just don't want to come back and live in the city. So we had some interviews with a bunch of people, and those guys live out in the outskirts and don't want to move their families back into the city, which is tough. So I think what we're doing is working. I don't know if Luke's on this call. Luke Malnicki is our manager in the garage, and I think we've been on top of sending these trucks out to get fixed, and we're getting contracts with other with other vendors so they can help us out. And I think it's been working. Luke, you have any comment on that if you're on? Guess not. Okay. Well, that was the highlight of MEM. We don't have any staff that we unfunded or anything like that. Anybody got any questions on MEM?
We're good.
Okay. Snow and ice, is that 164?
Yep.
Or 160?
163 it starts, but that's
163.
the number of inches.
So this year, we didn't have a lot of snow, which I wish we did. That's kind of crazy to say, but I wish we did have a lot of snow, but we had more ice than snow, and that kind of caused a lot of problems for us. The icing is the toughest thing to get under control. And dropping salt to combat that kind of put us in a pickle with salt. So we raised the salt a little bit this year in our budget to 1.3. It was, I think, Lori, what was it? 1.6, 1.2? 6? Lori?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
1.250.
Okay.
$1.25 million.
And we came very close this year on that budget, so we don't want to repeat that this year. So we upped it up to 1.3. And like I said, the trucks are here, going to be coming in this year. We got 10 new trucks, thanks to you guys approving that in the budget, I think early last year or late last year. So they'll be arriving in August and September, so that's a big win for us. Other than that, any other questions on snow and ice?
Yeah, so Commissioner, obviously we had a lot of discussions this year, particularly some of the side roads, the neighborhoods we weren't able to go after. So what are we projecting for this year? Are we going to have similar issues? Do you think the new equipment will be helpful? Where will we be?
So we looked at a few things. We looked at also getting help with some of the side streets that would probably cost us a little bit more than we wanted to spend. But obviously, in those times where there's life and death situations, money's not sometimes money's not an issue. We need to take care of our residents, and we need to do it in a safe manner. So, but we felt like the 10 new plows will open up some of the other trucks to help us with those side streets. We also put some money in for plow packages on our smaller vehicles to help us out with that as well. I mean, all in all, I think this year is it's going to be a big test for us to see if we can get into those smaller streets sooner. I think we can. I know we can. Definitely faster than we did previously with the 10 new plows. So I'm looking forward to this year. Someone's got to mute.
Lori, that's you. What am I doing?
Okay. So Commissioner, I mean, I guess I just want to make sure. I mean, I think if we were in a situation where we're not sure if we're going to be able to get to those side streets, relatively quickly, I think that's the conversation the council needs to have, or whether or not we want to give more money in your budget to have you guys get help. So I just want you to think about it a little bit, and if you think it's something we're going to need to worry about, then I think we need to have a conversation with the council. But if you feel comfortable that this won't be an issue this year, then that's great, and we can just kind of move forward the way it is.
I think if we didn't get these 10 new plows, I would be begging you for that extra money. I think the 10 new plows is going to, with our service contracts as well, to help us fix these older plows, plus keep the new plows on the road, is going to be huge. I'm not saying that I'm overly confident that we're going to get to them all at 100%, but I'm more confident this year than I was last year. How about that?
Well, I know that if it's February next year and it's 36 hours, be yelling at you. So. Just want you to be ready.
You're right. You're right. So I mean, those conversations we should have sooner than later. I mean, obviously we got a few months, but talking about it early will help. So yeah, we should have those conversations, I think.
Okay. Other questions from other counselors?
I just want to make a comment, if I could, Councilor Green. Commissioner, I probably have worked with 12 or 13 different DPW commissioners, and I just want to say you're at the top. You've always, I mean, I think you're innovative, and I love the idea of the complaint investigator. You come to us for an equipment maintenance supervisor. You've always answered all my phone calls, which is a big thing to me. And I think you've really made an effort to improve your department. And I think the city's fortunate to have you. That's all I want to say.
I appreciate that, Councilor Hogan. I strive myself to do the right thing. I mean, I went to high school here. I went to elementary school at Ed Smith. I mean, those things matter. And seeing my mother live on, on the south side, and I just want to, I want the city to be better than what it is. And I think that's the reason why I took this position, to help out just not the people that are calling, but also the people that don't call, and think that Syracuse is the way it is supposed to be, and it doesn't. It doesn't have to be that way.
And you got a hell of a deputy commissioner too, and I'll tell you, your people, you got the people in the right positions to get things done too, which I like.
She just screamed when you said that.
Counselor Hogan, sometimes when you talk, it reminds me of my dad, how for like 20 years I never saw the man cry, and then he reached a certain age, all of a sudden he would cry all the time. It was like,
I would cry if I had you as a son too.
Oh man.
Wait. I do have one question though. So,
okay.
Kevin Hunter, I always bother you to restore the green space on the streets, and you use a contractor to do that. Do you have any money for that this year? And I just want to make sure it doesn't accidentally get cut. That's get more money put in or something. Where does that come from?
No, we have that in the budget. Is that, I don't know where that line item is, Lori. We have that money in the budget, correct, Lori? Unmute, Lori.
That's something we can look into when the time comes for green space for.
Where does it come from? Like where?
My budget. My street repair budget.
Street repair budget, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just like hidden in a bigger line. That's fine.
Hidden just for you.
All right.
You call, they will come.
Maybe.
We good?
166, sanitation. All
right. So sanitation, obviously we are looking at the financials and sanitation. I know there's an RFP out that I don't know if Corey is on, but I know she is working very, very, very hard on it. We're looking at sanitation as a whole to see if we're actually doing it correctly, and if we can do it efficiently some other way. We're looking at that. But as we look into it now, I mean, we our comp cases are out, skyrocket. I mean, we can't keep people here. We're not hurting them intentionally, obviously, but if you go out on the truck, I think Councilor Rudd has, I have, Corey has. It's tough. Night in and night out, day in and day out. I mean, those guys jumping up and down maybe 100 times a day. I mean, in any weather. That's the department that, rain, sleet, or snow, they got to pick up the trash. And they're doing a heck of a job now in this pandemic as well. So that's pretty much it about sanitation, unless you want to go through something specific on any line items.
Any questions from any of the councilors? Okay. Street cleaning, 169.
So street cleaning, I think the the biggest thing for street cleaning is we're trying to continue our grinding and emulsion operations. We ran into a bit of a pickle this year with our screen, and we are, we're going to have to rent one this year. Obviously, I took all the money for for snow plows, and we didn't have enough in there for a new screen, which is how much is it again? About almost $300,000 for a new screen. So we rented one this year. I think that's for a few months. I think that's beneficial to us to try to continue with our operations there. But as you look at the budget, I mean, it's pretty much the same as last year. There's really no significant changes there. Anything on street cleaning? Want to talk specifically about?
Okay, if not, then we'll go to transportation.
Okay, so DOT is a small department that's often forgotten. Transportation is always forgotten. According to some of their supervisors, we're like the stepchild of the DPW. But they work hard. We have obviously the streetlight coordinator, which is now called the streetlight manager. I think to make it more enticing for the individual that we pick. So, I mean, that's the only things that stand out in DOT is our streetlight manager, and I believe we have a operator as well that's under that manager as well.
Where's the transportation planner show up in the budget?
Yeah. Lori, that's Neil Burke, so I don't know where he would. Where does he show up in the budget, Lori? Take off mute. Got to take him off mute. You got to take yourself off mute.
He's in Maine.
He's in the main budget?
Yeah.
Okay. So could you tell Councilor Green where that is?
Main office.
Main office, page 148.
Project coordinator.
Yeah, 148.
Got it.
Okay.
And my other question, professional services. So I know this is one I've had some people talk to me about whether or not we could do more in-house in terms of having the reviews. I know we use a lot of contractors for that. Can you talk a little bit about that, if there's any more capacity to do some of this in-house?
What, professional services? Some of those things are specialized that we don't actually have that specialty in-house. I know some of the striping. I mean, we can't. There's some things that we can't do that we're just limited to. As far as GOT, other departments, there's some things that are, very, very, very specific skill that, just hiring a person or hiring a team would just be, would outweigh the cost of actually just going outside and asking for help. I don't know if you have any specific line items that you want to go over as far as professional services, but I know in DOT they have help with striping and stuff like that. Traffic studies, yep.
In there also is garage management fees. That's why that's so high.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the councilors on this section? Any other questions broadly, DPW, that maybe we missed? Okay. All right. So anything else, Commissioner, from you?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me. And you guys be safe.
Yep, our next one is at 12 o'clock, we have parking garage, so we'll,
Yep.
sign it until then.
Okay.
Good job, Jeremy.
Counselor Paniagua,
Councilor Green,
yes, sir, I can hear you.
you can hear me?
Yep.
Ah, great.
Great. All right. Council President Hudson, Counselor Allen, Counselor Driscoll, Counselor Rudd, are you on here? I don't see. Okay, so at this point, I'll turn it over. Who's going to be running it from DPW?
I'm going to pass that over to Mr. Hogan. I meant Hogan. Sorry, Mr. Monin. Pat.
He butters you up, and now you're already giving him a good job.
I was trying to give it back to you, Mr. Mr. Hogan. No, Pat Monin's going to take this.
Which page is this on again?
That would be, Lori, that would be what, 150?
It's part of transportation.
Okay. Pat, are you on? Is Pat Monin on? Okay.
He appears to be. There's Monin P.
Yeah, he said he's calling in.
Yeah.
So I can try to answer as much as I can, Counselor, so bear with me. Anything, what is that, 172, correct? What number,
Yes.
what page number are we on? 172?
172.
Yes.
In there basically are minor repairs to the garages. Most of the garage money is capital.
Where are we showing the revenue from the garage?
That would be on the revenue sheets.
Does that not
Those are
attach
in
to this?
Those are in the front of the book, right, Lori?
I didn't get a copy of that.
Let me see. Yeah, the estimated revenues are in the front of the book, which I think. I was just looking at it. Looks like this is page 9. Revenue summary, comparison of estimated revenues, and that's the Public Works page, which includes the estimated revenues for each of the garages.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think it'd probably be helpful just to kind of go through these, starting with the Washington Street garage. And then, I mean, so what's our estimate based on of where we're coming up with the fiction?
What's our estimate based on in terms of the revenue?
Right, like, so we're seeing year-over-year changes for this budget versus last budget. Why do we think that?
That would be a great question. Let me call Pat Monin and find.
I think Pat's having troubles with his phone. I know he has all that information. Sorry, Councilor Green, for the holdup.
What page were the revenues on for DPW?
9. I guess while we're waiting on that, does anyone from the administration want to talk about the general state of the garages and what our long-term plan is?
Or is that you laughing? You want that open to everybody, including me?
Okay, Pat's gonna try to call in. So I think, and who else is supposed to be on? There's Kelly Haggerty. Kelly Haggerty, you can speak to the
Oh, great. Thanks, Corey.
to the structural condition of the garages. This is why I send these invites out to so many people.
Okay, so CNS is doing the inspections right now, and it's actually working out pretty well because most of them are pretty empty. So they're getting through them really quickly, and once we get their report, we will know. They prioritize every report for every garage, and they tell us what needs to be done as soon as possible. A couple things have already come up, and we've already gotten the work done in the last few weeks. Some kind of emergency situations. And that's ongoing right now. So we will know more in a couple weeks, I think. And then we'll be able to tell which are the highest priorities, and we'll get it ongoing for the next round of construction projects in the garages.
And will the reports have a sense of what the future capital needs are for each of them?
So when the report comes in, they put them into different categories of, emergency, high priority, or long-term maintenance. They kind of put it into different categories, and then they do give an estimate for each item. So we'll make that complete.
Okay, because I know there's been talk about creating a parking authority, and to me, like, the calculation clearly is, what's our revenue each year, what's our expenses associated with it, and then let's factor in the cost of debt service, whatever capital needs are done. So I'm not sure that we have all that data yet to be able to really evaluate that, and that's what I wanted to make sure we're working towards, to be able to make a good decision.
Yep. So we'll have the structural needs pretty quickly.
Well, what about the bonding? What about is Dave on? Have we retired some of these bonds that we used to build this thing, or any of these things? We got any kind of answers on that? Like Councilor Green mentioned, debt service. No?
Kelly, do you happen to know which ones? I think Washington Street would have been the only one that we would have any remaining bonds on.
So we own them all free and clear except for the Washington Street one, Corey, you think?
I think so. I will double check.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm not sure. I know we did a Madison Irving project a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we bonded for that one. We did Madison Irving and Fayette about 3 years ago, two or 3 years ago.
Well, with the capital, any kind of capital expense, do we bond for any kind of the capital expense for these garages, or?
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of repairs or anything like that we'd have to run into, Kelly, or?
I think I'm pretty sure we do. I know that when we were talking about maybe the authority and all that, I think there was some outstanding bonds, and that was an issue. I'm pretty sure. That bonding stuff is kind of out of my.
Yeah, I think we do every time. Even when there's like an elevator project, I'm pretty sure we bond for all that. So I think really we need to know what the future needs for work, and then calculate the debt service for that, and then you can have your equation.
So we'll be close. We'll be close on that part soon.
And then, so I guess obviously on this budget we're showing kind of status quo in terms of where the revenue will go in terms of the city budget versus the potential parking authority. So I think, are we all in agreement that nothing's going to change this fiscal year? And then the next question is, when do we anticipate potentially looking at changes?
I think we don't anticipate any changes this year, but I think that's in part because we plan on bringing on a new operator, and we're not entirely sure, I think, how to estimate how that. I think it would be likely to increase revenue, in part because in the RFP for the operator, we'd be looking for them to introduce credit cards as a way to pay for parking, which I would imagine would increase revenue. But I think in terms of just the timing of when the RFP would be issued and when the new operator would be in place, I think we plan to keep this budget status quo, but with the understanding that we do anticipate, I think, with the new operator to see increased revenue in the future.
Not that,
I,
not that I want to get into the weeds on this, but I mean, obviously, if there was a template to establish a parking authority, we'd be interested in. But also, I'm wondering how that would affect the overall assets of the city as far as bonding goes. So that's just questions I would have. If we gave them up to a parking authority.
mm-hmm.
The bonding limit is usually set by the assessed value, not a function of the other stuff.
Yeah, the assessed value of the assets that are controlled or owned by the city. And if we
No, it's like a function of the roll, the tax roll, like how much value exists in your city.
And
so
those
Syracuse has like $3.5 billion taxable. So the debt limit's like 20% of the 5-year average. It's like anyways, I don't think that would affect anything for bonding.
Oh, I just remember when the Joint School Construction Board, I believe a lot of our municipal buildings were included in.
To the extent the garages have debt, it might shift that debt off the city's debt record and put it on the authority, so it might free up space, but it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Okay. You say so, Councilor Rudd. You are in charge of finances.
Okay, so let's operate under the assumption that for this fiscal year, we're going to be operating in perspective. So is Pat on yet? Are we able to kind of go through what the assumptions are for this year's parking budget?
I think Pat is calling in. So Pat's going to call in again. I think he might want to be one of the no-name call-in users who are understandably all muted because we want everybody muted. But I think when he was trying to talk, he was muted. So I told him to call in again so we can figure out which call-in user he is and have him chime in. So I apologize for this difficulty we're having here.
Tell him not to wave because they don't see you when you wave.
So Jim Conroy, if you're listening, we might need to, unmute the call-in users to figure out which one is Pat.
I just did unmute on entry, so if he's calling in, that should be okay.
Okay.
I guess I could unmute all of these callers.
Oh, Pat, is that you, user 22?
Yes, I just checked in, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
I am sorry. Yeah. I have been trying.
That's okay. That's all right. Pat, Councilor Green was asking about some of the proposed revenue, and, in some of the cases, we anticipate an increase in revenue, particularly in the Washington Street garage. Is that due to any new users that we anticipate or companies that have moved in, or, how do some of the anticipated revenue that's increased, is there a particular reasoning for that? Everything okay, Councilor Hogan?
Just dropping stuff.
Okay.
The increase we would have for the Washington garage would have been prior to the COVID situation, where the garage participation has dropped incredibly. But what I would have been doing if I anticipated or indicated an increase in revenue would have been based on what I felt was going to happen with more monthlies participating at the garage. For instance, as an example, we've been talking about possibly another 80 parkers later in the year, next year, needing the garage from that new project that's being considered. But I don't remember if I factored that in or not because I don't have it right in front of me.
Yeah. Well, I remember some of the email exchanges about anticipated revenue, so I think some of them were based on folks that we anticipated to start using the garages. But I think it does provide us the opportunity to just talk about the way in which COVID is impacting our parking garages, is that understandably, as businesses have sent people home, people are not coming downtown to park. We haven't waived parking fees for people to park in garages. So if you're, working in the Attorney General's office and you were paying to park in the Fayette garage, you know, you're still getting a bill to pay for it. But there is concern that over time, the longer this goes on, the more people are going to stop paying their fees for their garages because they're not end up coming in. I mean, they're still available for them to park in, so they certainly can if they want to. But we do anticipate some likely impact on revenue depending on how long this goes, just because the reality is if people are not coming downtown to work, their priority is not to continue paying for parking. Now, you know, once this whole thing passes, you know, whether or not those people are in void of their contract and we end up canceling their contracts, you know, I mean, if they lapse, then technically they might not have a guaranteed spot when this whole thing blows over, but I don't know to what degree we're going to pursue that. But just in terms of impact on revenue, we do anticipate that Corona will impact our parking revenue.
If I may, Corey, just to repeat a little bit of what you said, back in mid-March, the mayor authorized us to open up the Washington Garage on a 24-hour basis and make it available for parkers free of charge, which we have done. However, having said that, if you drive through today, for instance, if you happen to have a moment, any of the counselors drive through any of the garages, I dare say no matter what garage you go through, you'll see less than probably 50 cars in the garage. So that's the impact that this has had on us on a day-to-day basis. We never exceed 100 cars in the garage, in any of the garages. So it's been dramatic. It's like a ghost town when you go in the garages. This will seriously impact our revenue. We have gotten significant amount of pushback from people calling and saying, well, I'm only working part-time now. Can't you do something for us? Can't you give it free? You know, and I've tried to explain that our expenses haven't changed. They've actually gone up. Making garage available 24 hours means we have to have security in there 24 hours. That's expensive. And it's kind of like a catch-22. I was hoping that this was going to be a 2-week or a 3-week thing, and we're going to be through it. Now I have no idea how long things are going to go. But, Corey, I sent you an email even today about a customer in one of the garages that they've been working part-time. They send their money to their home office in New York, which cuts a check back to the garage. And they're saying that nobody's working, or at least not on a continual basis. They'll catch up to us when they can, when everybody gets back to work. Mm-hmm. I don't know really how to handle it. But my point is to the counselors is that this is it's going to have a very big effect on our revenue for the next foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. Even if people, and some people do continue to pay at the garage even though they're not there. But there are going to be, I guarantee, a number of people who just simply say, I wasn't there, I'm not going to pay for it. And then we'll have to decide on a uniform way how we're going to handle all that. Does that help at all?
Yeah, thank you, Pat.
Okay.
Questions from any of the counselors? Okay. If not, then I think we're all set.
Great.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, counselors.
All set with me, Clay?
Thank you.
Hey, Corey?
Councilor Green?
Yes, Joel?
So I guess we got aviation next?
Aviation, yeah, I think that's at 12:30.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Well, we've just hit 12:30. Perhaps we should get the meeting started. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Joe Driscoll. I'm the 5th District Counselor and the Transportation Chair, overseeing the Aviation Department. With us are Councilors Paniagua, Councilor Green. I saw Councilor Allen, President Hudson, and I believe that's it for councilors. Is Rudd there? Rudd. My name is Rudd. All right, Rudd is there with us as well. And so, with that being said, I'll pass it over to you, Mr. Terreri, and you guys can introduce who's with us from the airport.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having us. My name is Jason Terreri. I'm the Executive Director of the airport. I've been here since May of last year. In the room with me, I have our executive team, which is Debbie Marshall, who is the head of HR, John Carney, who is our Chief Operations Officer, Robin Watkins, who is our brand new CFO, been here about a month. And so we're here today to present the airport aviation budget to you all. So really, we just hit on a couple of the highlights on the numbers. You'll see the numbers are a little bit lower from last year. Really what's driving that is that on January 1, we brought over the majority of the employees to the airport authority. So Local 400 came over and joined us on January 1. We still have about 16 positions that we are hoping to bring over in this next fiscal year. And we can talk more about that going forward. As far as any of the other, I don't know if there's any specific questions you all have on the actual budget numbers or anything that was presented in the budget, but as you all know, these are all fully reimbursed positions for the city from the airport authority. But I don't know if there's any particular questions or areas that you all would like to focus on for this budget presentation.
My fellow councilors, anything else, any topics of interest to particular councilors?
Can I jump in real quick, Councilor Driscoll?
Yes, for sure, President.
So, Jason, that accounts for the subtotals that I'm looking at on page 241, where it goes from 68 staff to 10.
I'm pulling that up. Yeah, 68 to, you have 10? Yes.
Okay, so what that was accounting for, you're saying the move over and the change of staffing?
Correct. That, the majority of that was the local 400 that came over January 1st of this year.
Okay.
Okay,
I got one, Councilor Driscoll.
Yeah, Councilor Majuk, please.
I see here that the airport custodial worker, is increasing, right? From 33 to hopefully 35, is that? Or am I not seeing it?
We had 2 temporary positions, so 33 permanent and 2 temporary positions. So with those 35, now we're just making them all permanent. Right now, the only 2 city employees that are custodial workers are retiring this year. We'll be bringing those 2 over to, that would be our full 35 once they're over.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear. Am I the only one who can hear? Can you come closer to the mic?
I can't hear either.
I'm sorry.
We're trying a new conference room system here, so we appreciate the feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
So there is a total of 35 custodial workers. When they were all with the city, it was broken down between 33 permanent and 2 temporary. And we made when they moved over here, 2 of the permanent custodial workers stayed with the city because they're retiring this year. And the 2 that were temporary, we made permanent as authority employees. So right now we have 33 authority custodial workers who are all permanent and 2 permanent city custodial workers who will be retiring. And when they retire, those positions will be coming over as authority positions for 35 total. That's the difference between the 33 and the extra 2. They were temporary positions that were made permanent.
So, I'm sorry, this is Pat Hogan. So I came in a little late. So in other words, the trades remained with the city, correct?
Correct. That's a different union. Yep.
Yeah, the trades remain with the city, and then all the local 400 people now, when they went over, and I know it's probably I should ask them, but I mean, when they went over their retirement time stopped or not?
No, all of their service time transferred over. They're still members of the New York State retirement system. That has not changed.
And so the airport authority contributes to that, or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And that's shown here too, or in the budget?
I believe so. I'm looking at that.
Well, yeah, so the authority now covers their retirement.
Yeah, so that's not covered in our budget. It shows up in the authority budget, not in this section of the aviation budget for the city.
Okay. And now what about their ability to retire with health benefits?
That was part of the collective bargaining agreement. So they will have health insurance in retirement. That has been maintained in the new. That's a contract in the contract now.
And who will pay for that? That will be a city cost, city expense.
No. So the 400A employees that came over to the authority, that's now under the authority budget. That's not a cost to the city.
So going forward, in retirement, that is a airport authority cost.
Correct.
So you'll allow them to retire if do they have to amass a certain number of years with the airport authority in order to retire with full health benefits or not?
I believe it's 10 years, but we grandfather in their city service.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Wait, just to be clear, did you said that all the salary are reimbursed through the airport authority? You said that, or did I misheard that?
That's correct.
Yes.
Those employees that still work for the city, they are totally reimbursed by the airport.
So if you could
come closer again.
Okay, so what John was saying is that yes, the city salaries are reimbursed by the airport authority.
Okay. All right. I see there's quite a big overtime stuff here. So I guess that fall under that as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said I see a big chunk here from overtime. I assume that is reimbursed as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
City employees.
Right. Councilor Driscoll, I'm all set.
And one more, Councilor Driscoll, and I'm assuming that once they become employees of the airport authority, and I used to be the chair of the aviation committee years ago myself, they lose all rights to transfer and all that stuff, right?
There was an agreement in the collective bargaining agreement that they could bid back out to the city for 1 year from the time of the start of the contract, but it was a one-way bid back to the city. So after that year is up, they will not be able to transfer back to the city. They would have to go through the normal hiring process for that.
Has any of them taken advantage of that, just for my own edification? Or you don't know?
No,
they have not.
No one has.
Okay.
They have until the end of this calendar year.
Okay, thank you.
I was wondering if, given the airport is probably experiencing maybe even a worse fall off in revenue, given the current situation, what measures you take? Are you furloughing staff? Are you letting staff go? How are you managing? I almost asked as like a peer group, like how is somebody else reacting to this?
Right.
Yeah, so I can give you a quick update kind of on where we sit right now. So right now, our passenger numbers are down about 90%. From a revenue perspective, we're down about 2/3. But going into all of this, we were at 2 consecutive years of double-digit growth. So from a financial position, we're sitting pretty strong right now. So in addition to the strong financial position, the airport was just awarded almost $13 million in relief funds through the CARE Act. And so even before that came in, we were not looking at any furloughs, layoffs, or modification to any employee, staff, or status at the airport. So we're in a strong spot right now to ride this out, and so we aren't seeing any short-term impact to any of the employees.
Okay, that's good enough.
So I got one more question, Councilor Driscoll, and it may be along the answers that have already been provided. I see that we have a firefighter station in the airport. Is it? And I see that here that there's about $2 million that goes into that or reimbursed. Now is that under the aviation or is that with the fire department?
That if I understand the question correctly, that is a city fire station.
Okay.
And that all of the costs associated with that station are, again, reimbursed by the airport authority. The firefighters that staff that station do have special training to handle and respond to aircraft incidents at the airport.
So the supervision and everything else is still with the fire, not the aviation.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. It still falls under the chain of command through the city. I believe Station 4? Yeah, Station 4 with the city is the airport station.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Would you, do you have more information to present, Jason?
No, that's it. Unless you all have any questions on the airport or any of the other numbers that we presented.
Counselors, does anybody else have any further questions?
Counselor, if I seem to remember that the airports, and I don't know if this is true or not, any kind of capital projects or bonding, you have to come before the council in excess of what, 20 million? Was it something like that?
Yeah, I believe it was more than, I think it's more than that. But we haven't had any new significant projects come up. We will have one coming up, a runway overlay project that should happen in 2021, so it will not be within this year. But that all relates to FAA grant funding. So once we know what the true and final cost of that project is, we'll bring forward to you all.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I guess I would just say that you should give my man Natalie a break on his rent because I need a place to get a haircut when this is all done.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. There's a lot of people who would love to come out and see him again.
I will join you as well, Rod.
Is that where you get your haircut, Councilor Majuk?
I'm dying for one.
All right. So if there's nothing else, I guess we'll adjourn the meeting. Everybody else good with feel they got their questions answered? Okay.
Thanks, Counselor.
Hearing no objection, thank you, Mr. Trey. Thanks everyone for giving us the information, and I'll see all you counselors on the internet sometime soon.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.